Welcome to Witches and Prose podcast. I'm Haley Camarillo, author of Fury and Flame, the first book in the Witching Hour series. I have with me today Huckleberry Rahr, who is the author of the Jade Stone Chronicles. They are a YA urban fantasy series. And yes, hello, welcome. I'm so glad to have you on. So can you tell us a little bit about your series and what book you're currently working on in it?
So the Jadestone Chronicles follows Jade. She is the daughter of the alphas of a werewolf pack. Mm-hmm. In the first series. So Jade, she totally has her life together. She's a sophomore in high school. She knows everything that's going to happen. She's going to be the next wolf healer. She has her life together. She has her group of friends. She's studious. And then she goes to Florida. And as everybody knows, it's her spring break. Things that happen in Florida do not stay in Florida. Things happen. And when she comes back, her life is in total disarray. Her friends stick by her side. I think when I write, I really work on characters and characterization and how they interact. Her pack is not so sure. So in my werewolf world building, you don't become a werewolf this young. It's usually closer to 20. So she was preparing to become a werewolf and the werewolf healer. So she isn't quite part of the pack, but because she's the daughter of the werewolves, that was her projection. But now the pack is not so certain. And that's kind of the trauma of her life, like what's going to happen to me now. Oh my gosh. So then the second book, Epsilon, it kind of still follows her and her friends. It focuses a little bit. There's a girl found on the side of the road in Illinois. Her parents are found dead in their car, mauled by a wild animal. And so the parents are like, this must have been a werewolf attack. They're worried that the girl who was 5, if she was attacked by the werewolf as well, she might be a werewolf. And that's, like I said, werewolf doesn't normally come out till much older. And the kind of the wildness of the animal, usually with kids, doesn't mesh well. So they want to go down, see if the girl was attacked. If she was, bring her into the pack so they can take care of her and help her grow up, hopefully still let her be innocent. And then people in town start dying.
Oh no.
So I'm worried about a rogue werewolf.
Oh.
I am hoping to get the third book out in July. That's when it's slated to come out. It's called Alphas, and Jade is finishing up high school. Her friend, she was very studious, kind of hides from everyone else in school, just studies. And her best friend, who has always been more athletic and studious, says, you should join track because you need more in your application to colleges than just schoolwork. And Jade's like, say what now? And so her friend's like, no, you'll be brilliant. You should join track. Throughout the book, I've presented her as being kind of klutzy, falling a lot, tripping a lot. And she's like, I should what now? And her friend's like, no, come on, you should do this. And then the second half of the book, she actually is going out and looking at colleges, heading out to California, or neck of the woods. So the first 3 books, when this book ends, is high school. The second 3 books, she's in college. She does end up in a college in California, for a little spoiler. So I start off in Wisconsin. I end up in California because I'm from California.
Exciting.
So the 2 locations of the first 3 books and the second 3 books are the 2 locations I know. It's up closer to, I make up a city for both books. The second 3 books are a city that's just kind of outside of Half Moon Bay, kind of up there, kind of in a woodsy area, because they're werewolves. Yeah. But yeah, I do head out to California for the second 3 books, 4, 5, and 6.
Awesome. I love that you get to have like a little bit of like geography change for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of the book and where we are. And
perfect. Well, that is super exciting. So what inspired you to come up with Jade's story?
So there is a twist in book one, which I'm not going to give away, but I liked the idea of the twist. I decided to start writing because I have, again, you'll appreciate this. I have two sons. They are both autistic. They're both, and my older son is pansexual, and my moms were lesbians. So growing up, I read a lot of books that were fantasy, urban fantasy, mostly fantasy, especially at the time I was reading. And it didn't have ever really have a diverse cast. My mom really tried to find at least female main characters as best she could, written by female authors, but that was about as diverse as she could find. Mm-hmm. My sons both really love fantasy, urban fantasy, grit, good stories. When I started writing, my kids were younger. And so I wanted to write something that was gritty and a good story, and something that wasn't like kind of too young for them, but I didn't want spice and romance. Okay. So I wanted something that had like suspense and twists and turns, and it wasn't just like ABC. It had all these different like areas that would like surprise them, but also had kind of just a background cast of the LGBTQ. It wasn't the main point of the story. It was just kind of there in the background, kind of like their life. You know, they have friends who are gay and lesbian and straight and trans and black and white and Hispanic, and they have everything. And I wanted that just to kind of be the background like they have, but with the story being a fun werewolf story where, you know, werewolves are family. And so the pack is family. That's the heart of the family. There is fighting, but that is actually explained away, not as like werewolves fighting. It gets explained away as something else. And so I kind of wanted to build that into it.
Perfect. I love that. I love that you did that to help give your kids that. That's amazing. And really inspiring. And I'm very glad that you're able to do that for them, and that you're able to get these books out there, because we need more representation and diversity.
My oldest son was really excited until I made him do a lot of the reading of the emotional scenes to make sure that they fit for teenagers. Okay. And he was like, "You're just going to make me be your sounding board for everything." I'm like, pretty much.
Well, you know.
But then one day he was like, "You know, Mom, you write teenager better than I do teenager." And I'm like,
that's really funny. You're like, okay, well, my job's done then. So exactly. That's awesome though. I'm so glad that you have that you can share with your kids. That's definitely something that I look forward to being able to share with my son and my daughter as they grow up. Okay, so you kind of answered this one already a little bit. You had said there's not much spice or smut or anything in it. It's just, nice, clean, family type of fantasy. Which is
they're teenagers, so it's not like the main character doesn't have someone she's interested in, or there isn't things like that. But yeah, it's very clean.
Okay. Is there any romance at all? Or is it just more so like almost like the found family is the more of the
so the main character does end up getting a girlfriend, and they do kiss, but that's like the beginning, middle, and end of it.
Okay.
It gets a little bit, she goes on dates in I want to say book 6, okay. The very last book of the series, but that was needed for the storyline for book 6.
Gotcha. And, she's older at that point. She's in college. It makes sense,
Exactly.
So that's perfect.
And some of her friends, when she's in college, are dating, and they'll say something and she'll be like, nope.
I love that.
Not hearing any of it. So it gets nipped out way before anything could be said.
That's funny. I love that though. That's really cute. Okay. So what's your writing process like? How, are you a plotter, a pantser, both? For people who don't know, plotters, usually like outline their whole books ahead of time. They have like a very clear idea of what they're looking for. Pantsers, fly by the seat of their pants. That's, so they're experiencing the story as their characters do. So they're learning just as much as, then they're learning and evolving as much as the world is evolving and their characters are learning. So what are you?
So most of the Jade Chronicles, totally pantser. So like, I was like, this is what I want to have happen in Florida. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to write until I get to Florida. And then this is what I want to have next. And then I just wrote until I got to that part. And then this is what I want to have next. And then I just wrote till I got there. When I write now, I'm somewhere in between.
Okay.
I outline and I kind of like pre-write out what I want with that outline. But characters are wily little things and you can't really control them. And suddenly they just go off and they do something. And I usually describe the way I write as I'm reading and trying to type as fast as I'm reading. And so I'll just be reading and I'm curious what's going to happen next. And then I am reading until I get too tired to read anymore. It's probably why I write as fast as I do, because I really like to read and I'm really curious what's going to happen next.
That is awesome. You are a very, very, very fast writer from what I have seen and know of you. I'm in awe. Truly, I am in awe.
It is literally your fault, if you're wondering, because I had written 2 books in 2019. And then was it 2021, you said, okay, I missed NaNoWrite. Yeah. And I, in January, want to do the 50K and I hadn't started book 3. I'm like, okay, I will do this. And 2 weeks later, I had book 3 written. And then in 2021, I wrote 12 books because I was like, okay, now I'm going to write book 4. And now I'm going to write book 5. Now I'm going to write book 6. And then I just like, people are like, well, let's write this thing. And then I'll start this thing. And then next thing, I just didn't stop writing after that.
That is
so you're like, let's do this thing. And then the next thing I know, I haven't stopped writing since.
I love that. That is amazing. And
I've written the books that I'm writing right now are 30K versus like the longer ones. And I've written, of these 30K books that I've been asked to write, I've written 7 of them since February.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And you're right. It is, because I also have a full-time job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always like, I told my friend at the beginning of 2022, I said, 2022, I'm not going to write. I'm just going to clean up everything I've written. And they're like, okay, that hasn't worked well.
That's so funny. But that's amazing. That's a huge accomplishment to be able to say that not only have you written 12 books in a year, but that you already at this point since February have written 7. That's fantastic. Bravo to you.
But if anyone ever asks, you were the one who was like, we're going to start writing 50K in this month. And yeah, if you hadn't said that, I don't know if I would have written the 3rd book for the Jade Stone Chronicles. I don't know. So, and now I'm here. So thank you.
I'm glad that worked out. I mean, it seems like it's doing an amazing job for you.
Yeah. And it pushed me into self-publishing, and it pushed me into all sorts of things happened.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. So do you have any sort of struggles that you have dealt with writing this series? What are your biggest struggles?
So when I started writing, I'm dyslexic. Okay. So I have tons of struggles. And I lucked out. I have an amazing team who helped me. I started off before, like right when I met you, is when I was switching from doing a writing group face-to-face in town to finding writing groups online.
Okay.
And the writing group face-to-face was a mixed genre writing group. And there was a couple of people who did urban fantasy, maybe one other person, and a couple of people who were pretty good at helping you regardless of your genre. Okay. But the person who led the group was awful. He started telling me before I submitted my chapters, I had to get them pre-edited. And so that's actually where I met one of my friends who is part of the page, and she still helps me quite a bit. And then he told me eventually he would only give me comments. He said, no, what did he say? He said he would highlight the issues on my chapters, but not tell me what was wrong. And I would have to figure out if it was spelling, grammatical. He gave me a list of 5 things it could be, and I would have to figure it out. And so I wrote him this long letter explaining that I'm dyslexic, and literally this is physically impossible for me to do. And if that was what he was going to do, he was more than welcome to not edit anything of mine. There was like a bunch of people there, and the others were reading my chapters. And then for like 4 of my submissions, he didn't do anything. And then suddenly I got a bunch of them back, all highlighted with, again, this is what it means. Everything is highlighted. You're going to have to figure out if it's spelling or grammatical or like the whole list of things it could be without any actual feedback in the entire chapter. And the challenge is, with this writing group, there was a bunch of us. So you would submit we met every other week, and you could submit every other time or every third time. And not all the same people were there every time. So 1 to 2 of your chapters would be read once a month or once every 6 weeks, not by the same people.
Okay.
There was no continuity there. And one near the end of it, somebody read a chapter and said, this paragraph reads like wet oatmeal. And I think that was a comment that got me finally to pull out and say, this isn't helping me. I am not, my book isn't going to get published. My book isn't improving. It's not working.
Yeah.
And that was about November. Okay. And then in December, I found somebody who said they would beta read for me, and she helped me a lot. And then I got to your website, and then I found an editor, and things just started snowballing, and it was just so much fun. It was like night and day. The online writing community is just so lovely. So
I'm sorry that you went through that. That's really frustrating. I don't understand why some people even bother giving feedback if they're not going to give it, because it's, at the end of the day, it's not like it's not them teaching you a lesson. It's just them giving you feedback. You shouldn't have to asking questions about for clarification, okay, so I would rather you explain this a little bit more, but having to explain every single thing, having to ask, I don't understand what this means, having no context whatsoever, that just feels like somebody trying to show that they know more than you, which that's so frustrating and not cool.
Mm-hmm. And so I had a busy semester. I stepped away from the group, and my family and friends were like, you can't go back. They are demoralizing you in your writing.
Yeah.
And that's not what you need. I'm like, and I thought about it, and then I finally decided that they were right.
Well, I'm glad you did, and I'm glad that the online community has been so much better for you. It is an amazing place. Okay, so I would love to know about who your favorite supporting character is from from Jade's series.
So my favorite supporting character is it's Jade, and then she has her brother, and then 3 friends, right? And one of her friends is a character named Bevan. And I think as you move through the books, Bevan almost becomes a secondary main character, but everything is in Jade's point of view. But Bevan is just, I think, becomes everybody's favorite character, probably before the end of the 2nd book, definitely before the end of the 3rd book. He is just a really good, he's smart, and he's quirky, and he's sassy, and he's just a really good character. And when Jade starts spiraling or not knowing what's going on, he just comes in, he's like, dude, Jade, come on. He always just knows what's going on. And the two of them end up going into the same college, and like he's always has her back.
Aww.
And he's a really good character. He is also trans. They grow up together in the same pack. So of our friends, Sarah does not grow up in the werewolf pack. Her brother obviously does. And then there's Jose and Bevan, who also are children of werewolves.
Okay.
And so there's on my website, I have backstories from most of the characters and like different short stories you can read and get to know more about different characters. So, and then you can see also, I went into the art breeder and made little images of different characters so you can go and kind of see what they could look like.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Would you mind telling us the name of your website? That way I can have that available for everyone.
Sure. And I can also, I don't know if you have this, I can also send it to you as well. Yeah. But because it's WordPress, so it's always longer.
Okay.
But it's huckleberryauthor.wordpress.com.
Perfect. Awesome. And I will put a link in there when I upload this. So then that way, if anyone wants to go check it out, they can see that. That sounds like there's a lot of fun little like Easter eggs and things that people can get there.
I also do a monthly flash fiction.
Oh, that's exciting.
And then whoever wins, I put their submission on my homepage for a few days and I put a newsletter out about them.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
I just do that because I like reading flash fictions. They're short and fun and like, I just think it's fun.
Yeah. No, that is an amazing thing. I love that. Well, I think that we are just about at our time limit. Again, I had so much fun talking to you today and learning about Jade and her story. I'm very, very excited to read. I've read Wolf Healer. I haven't read Epsilon yet, but I'm excited for that. So yeah, again, Huckleberry's book 3 alphas will be available July 21st. And it's up for pre-order now. So if you would like, go over to, is it available Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And it'll be on Ingram Spark once, because I have it on Kindle Unlimited, it can only be on Amazon.
Okay. Perfect.
Because they're very proprietary when you have things on Kindle Unlimited.
Oh, I don't know that yet, but I am learning, and that is a great piece of information. Thank you for that.
When you get to that point, ask any. There are so many little things. Ask anything you want, because there's a couple of people who I've asked maybe a bajillion questions of, and they have been very patient with me. So I'm all about paying it forward and answering any questions.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely be reaching out to you. Thank you so much again for meeting with me, for interviewing. I had so much fun talking to you.
I did too.
Yes. And thank you guys all for watching the Witches and Prose podcast.